On this Mediterranean island, 200 kilometers from the nearest mainland, resources are scarce. Most living things disappeared. But two organisms, a very uncommon plant, and a group of daring and inquisitive lizards managed to survive more successfully than the rest of the species. The plant adapted to the climate on this hostile and rugged island. It obtained food, it reproduced, and it flourished. Lizards learnt to search and take advantage of all types of organic matter within reach. In some cases, in an extraordinary and spectacular way. In this haven of seabirds, we discover an amazing story of survival never told before. The extraordinary evolution of a plant and a lizard isolated in the middle of the Mediterranean. My name is Toni Escandell. I'm a wildlife filmmaker. I've been coming to this island for more than 30 years, filming for the last 15 this lizard, known by science as Podarcis lilfordi, unique in the world. This documentary is my tribute to its story. This western Mediterranean island is the farthest from the mainland. It is called the island of wind. Nowadays, no one lives on the island, but the lighthouse continues helping sailors. Most castaways trapped on this small island died out, probably after a very short time. However, some others adapted so well that they are still here today, specialists in this hostile environment. And here, where atmospheric conditions are severe and adverse, where the wind and sea shape the topography every day and don't allow vegetation to flower or grow as much as it does in other places, here is where our main characters became isolated about 9,000 years ago. This is where I have studied, trying to find out about its story. In this apparently austere area, the life of an exceptional ancient plant is played out with surprising adaptations that still today lead to surprising discoveries. It's the dead horse arum lily, a relic plant from the ancient times, which has a very peculiar form of reproduction. Locally, it is known as the pig's ear. Even from its touch, it appears to be made of animal flesh. A simple but sophisticated discovery has been made about this plant. Endemic to the Balearic Islands, Corsica and Sardinia, where it was already present 30 million years ago, this plant is capable, by metabolic means, of generating heat that may exceed the ambient temperature by 10 or 12 degrees centigrade during its flowering period. This plant shares territory with 150 other species. But it is with a non-vegetal castaway, another leading character in this story, that it maintains a special relationship. It is the Podarcis lilfordi lizard, endemic to this island, and indeed the only place in the world where it can be found. The curiosity of these lizards, and especially that of some individuals, may have been the key to their survival in such a hostile environment. This has been achieved mostly due to certain key individuals within the species. When a new object appears on the island, Whatever its origin, it will arouse the curiosity of all daring lizards, which have the courage to inspect it for the first time in order to check whether it is edible or not. These bold individuals, the most daring ones, those that take risks, are the first to discover new food resources for the species, and so the first to try the new food. The shyer lizards will watch and follow, rapidly learning by imitation. If something goes wrong, the species only risks a small part of its population, and if it is successful, all members benefit from the new discovery. The food resources on offer in such a small and hostile ecosystem as the Ilha del Aire are barely enough for survival. That is why these lizards had to get clever. They modified their previous diet, most probably insectivorous, and gradually became omnivorous lizards. Plants are one of the resources most exploited by lizards. Only 10% of the species found on the closest major Balearic Islands are found on this island. The lizards learned to effectively exploit every source of food available, and in some cases they have done it in a very spectacular way. Spring begins at the Ilha del Aire. Warm temperatures start stimulating the Detos arum lily's blooms. But it is not really a flowering plant. This lily has modified one or more of its leaves in order to attract flies. They remain open for a short time until they manage to catch some flies. Most begin to open at dusk and continue during the night, so they are completely open first thing in the morning, ready and prepared to catch the first flies of the day. Some will stay open for several days until they capture the flies. Sunlight is needed for the leaves to close. If the sun sets during the process, they won't finish closing until the next day. They mimic the smell of rotten meat to attract the flies. This mechanism has reached such a high level of perfection that the molecule released is exactly the same molecule released by putrefying meat. It has evolved to release this smell because it is competing with other animals on the island to attract the flies. But its opponents don't know what it's doing. They're not ghosts or souls from beyond, but they are dead. Believe it or not, the arum lily competes with the dead bodies of seabirds and rabbits, which lizards also use as vantage points to catch flies. To win this battle, the arum lily plants must be able to produce the best possible smell of rotting flesh. This unbearable stench is so attractive to the flies that there isn't one that can resist the temptation. However, the arum lily plant not only attracts them, it also manages to get them to go into the funnel. The flies, which think they've found a corpse, will try to enter, intending to lay eggs or larvae. But it's a trap. They've been kidnapped. In the belief that they're entering a dead animal's body, they inevitably slide inwards as they progress. These special hairs located in the orifice are responsible for catching the flies. As soon as they put their feet on it, they fall straight inside. But what happens inside the plant was never known, as no one was ever able to check until today. To discover what goes on inside the plant, I put an endoscopic microcamera into the funnel of the arum lily for the first time ever. This is how I managed to get inside the big belly of the lily, and then I remember thinking, who has shone a light down there? Well, the fact is that that is where the flies were, and it looked as if a huge whale had swallowed them. It was incredible. I had just discovered that a light could be seen at the end of the funnel. This light is achieved by the distribution of colors and textures on the inside walls of the funnel of this incredible plant. On the inside, we found a mostly red-purple color, while the base is completely black. On the way up from the base, the black color is followed by a translucent color, almost white, which allows sunlight to enter just where the male and female organs are situated. But it's a light trap. Through this ring of light, the arum lily distracts the fly and makes it stay at this particular point. As we all know, flies always seek the brighter area when trying to escape. During the filming of this documentary, we discovered for science one more incredible facet of this sophisticated plant. Obviously, at some stage, the flies will try to climb up with the intention of finding a way out. But the texture of the inside of the funnel is thin and slippery, just like the ones at the entrance that they've fallen through. And that explains why you can occasionally hear the buzz of flies inside trying to get out. Yet despite appearances, this plant is not carnivorous. The arum lily amazes us again when carrying out a very curious process filmed for the first time. First of all, it directs its central spike liquids through its female organ, which flies cannot resist sucking with their proboscis. This is probably the most effective way the plant has to ensure pollination. Shortly after the female organ has dispersed this liquid, and once the female parts have been fertilized, for a period of approximately 4 to 6 hours occurs what we will call the miracle: a rain of pollen. The male organ expels its pollen above the flies, which will then pass it to the female organs of other arum lily plants located even hundreds of meters away. A real Casanova. But first, they have to get out of here. So the plant now releases the flies by drying the internal parts which were previously slippery. And now the flies can climb up and out. Once outside, they will try to get rid of all the pollen they can, as this hinders their flight. When they feel ready, they fly off to find food, and also a safe place to deposit the rest or part of their larvae or eggs. And what place could be better than a piece of decaying flesh? So they are constantly caught by other arum lilies, which will play the same trick on them. By using a thermal camera, I have also been able to see that the arum lily does not emit heat overnight as it does during the day. At night, they retain heat only within the funnel, so as not to waste energy unnecessarily. This mechanism also probably allows the arum lily to favor the release of pollen, which is usually produced at night. Or maybe it's intended to keep the flies active during the cold hours of spring darkness to ensure the pollination process. What I can say for sure is that flies spend at least some nights of their lives in the comfort of central heating. After many years of evolution, the arum lily has effectively developed a sophisticated strategy to capture flies that will then pollinate other lily plants. We could say that this is an intricate and effective logistics system carried out by flies acting as dispatchers, but operated by a plant. And this is how these flies, for millions of years, have been delivering the goods to the requested destinations, deceived by the arum lily, which, at the same time, is itself being bothered by its restless neighbor. As we said, the arum lily generates heat, which is vital for the lizard's activity. As you can see in these images filmed with the thermal camera, the spike, exiting through the central hole of the arum lily, is warmer than the rest of the plant and its surrounding environment. This explains why it's not uncommon to see lizards on top of it, attracted by the warm surface of the lily, making use of the heat to maintain their own body temperature. Technically speaking, this is called a thermoregulation process. Bold lizards realized that flies visited the plant and saw the opportunity to catch them. To ensure their privileged place on the lily, lizards engage in hard-fought territorial battles. What is certain is that this spectacular, complex pollination system the plant has achieved with the flies has allowed our daring protagonist, who is aware of everything that happens around him, to take advantage of the plant by trapping part of their fleet carriers during the flowering stage and acting as a nuisance neighbor for the arum lily, which, of course, can't do anything about it. But who knows? Maybe somehow the lily will end up compensating the plant. Knowing how nosy these lizards are, we can easily imagine what will happen next. Indeed, they also realized that the flies got into the funnels of the lily, and they followed them. Adult males seem to have more difficulty getting into the funnels because of their size. They usually monitor and control different lilies, not allowing any other lizards to reach them. There's a time when the arum lily becomes scarce and so in high demand. This large male, owner of the territory where there is one of the last arum lilies of the year, may not be able to get inside himself, but he is unwilling to let any other lizard get near and will do everything he can to keep them at bay. In all this chaos, a female has crept into the arum lily. Her best policy is to eat the fly inside the funnel, so her neighbors can't steal it from her. During this sophisticated process of attracting and retaining the flies within the funnels, the lizards have become a kind of annoying intruder who steals the arum lily's victims and so captures the messengers the plant needs for its reproductive process. Everyone here has to get smarter in order to survive. And so these two castaways benefit from the flies that have been attracted, and the lizard takes advantage of the work that's been done by their plant neighbor. But the lizards don't always enter the funnels. Many times, before fully entering the arum lily, they pop their head into the entrance to check if there are any trapped flies by listening to the buzz that their wings make when they try to leave the funnels. If they think there's nothing there, they don't go in. And the reason for the appearance of this new island is explained by the geological history of our planet, which tells us that the sea level has risen and fallen on several occasions. The latest glaciation took place 21,000 years ago. The Mediterranean Sea was then 130 meters below the current level, and the geography of the Balearic Islands was very different from what we know today. With the rise in sea level, some of the landmass that had previously been joined together became isolated. Many different seabirds get together every year in some of these sanctuaries, and under its waters, other species find their shelter. Except for the flying and swimming species, able to travel by air or sea, no living thing could enter or leave these islands. The ones who survived remained isolated and have never been able to escape. Many of them could not overcome the ordeal that the new lands imposed on them and survive with few resources and in extreme conditions. But let's continue with our black lizard. There are other food sources that do not come from plants that lizards get and consume with great skill, imagination, and efficiency. And if something is not organic, they don't eat it. But of course, they have to try it just in case, even if it is a camera lens. This asphalted road that leads to the lighthouse offers a waterproof layer when it's raining or damp. In addition, it retains the sun's heat well into the night. There are some tiny castaways which seem to benefit from this. Ants. They are all over the island, but given the conditions, some have found a perfect place to build their anthills. And the lizards have noticed this too. The ants, which are one of the lizard's biggest competitors, depending on the kind of food, can become their prey at the same time. Lizards choose the ones with wings, more striking and vulnerable, discarding the workers, as these have a high content of formic acid, which is very unpleasant for most predators. This acid is practically non-existent in the flying ants, which leave the anthill to mate in the air and colonize new areas. On an island like this, strong winds and high waves often carry new material to the shore. It is not uncommon to find large tree trunks that the force of the waves has deposited several meters away from the shoreline. When the logs are first washed ashore, soaked in salty seawater, they are not a suitable habitat for very much. But after a while, this changes. There's a group of lizards near this trunk. They must be benefiting from something unknown to us, but we can imagine what it is: food. A bold lizard must have realized that a new food source worth exploiting was contained in these holes. Beetles. These tiny beetles, only 3 millimeters in length, are protein. A delicious snack for a lizard. But if we film 10 minutes of activity at the trunk with a high-speed camera, we can see the remarkable movement of the lizards. And the existence of these tiny beetles doesn't seem to explain this sufficiently, especially as while they're there, they're being exposed to possible predators. So there must be something else. And indeed, it is the larvae of a species of fly that keeps emerging through the holes and which are flightless for a few minutes. If a lizard reaches the right place at the right time, food is assured. We know, therefore, that they are able to take advantage immediately of any new natural food source that appears on the island. It also often happens that they don't see the fly if it isn't moving, just like other large predators on our planet. The last trunk probably arrived some time ago, and many years may go by before a new one arrives, where these insects can lay their eggs. And this shows us that not all the food resources exploited by lizards have needed a long process of adaptation. It isn't surprising to find some food resources which don't seem very appropriate for a lizard. Strange as it may seem, some of the food that the lizards consume does not come from the ground. In the seabed off this island, we can find mainly Posidonia meadows, rocks and sand. It is not uncommon to see many species of fish, especially at the Posidonia, some of them large predators like barracudas or groupers. The Posidonia meadows are home to thousands of marine organisms, and it is the ideal refuge for many fish. Each square meter of meadow can generate up to 20 liters of oxygen per day. They are the real lungs for the Mediterranean. The octopus inspects the holes and cracks whilst searching for fish, crabs or other hidden crustaceans, although it sometimes seems intent on capturing other octopuses. Barracuda wait at dusk to hunt other fish by surprise, like these damselfish. While some are already building their nest, others are still fighting over territory. Both tasks result in high physical wear and tear, and only the strongest will manage to overcome the effort. The sea, acting as dispatcher through the waves and currents, offers the land animals opportunities that should not be wasted on an island like this. They all try tasting a bit of the day menu before the rough sea takes it back again and out of reach. Lizards know that there could be surprises. It's time to go for a walk. Now the bold lizards will inspect any new object on the islands that draws their attention, and will take them as precious gifts from the sea. They will have to share the dinner table, despite their fights and efforts to scare or deter each other. The lizard guards any type of decaying flesh and its strong cocktail of bacteria. Other creatures, such as jellyfish, are pushed ashore by the waves, and as they lie dying on the rocks, they can be eaten, despite their stings. But not all the seafood is dead. Lizards are also good predators, and can catch some marine arthropods. They now have to keep up their concentration and be on constant alert. They also have to be ready to run after their prey, which may move on being discovered. Where there are a number of potential preys, the lizard has to concentrate on just one and ignore other distractions, and hope to avoid hazards. And if this perhaps unlikely source of food has come from the shore, other sources may come from much further away. A few miles out at sea, cetaceans are gathered and feeding, and there are also some pelagic birds. They spend the day catching fish and storing it in their crop, to then take it back to their single chick. And when darkness falls, with no lizards in sight, the island finally sleeps. Or so it seems. When darkness seems to dominate and silence all those who live on the land, some ghostly voices from the sea and cliffs invade and take over the island. These voices echoing between the rocks and the cliffs, are they the voices of flying monsters with a woman's head, devouring sailors and pirates and guarding the islands, as described in the Odyssey by Ulysses on his voyage through these islands? No, they are not monsters. Our ghost has a beak and wings, and even has a name. They are seabirds. The couriers shearwater. When it turns dark, shearwaters approach the coast and enter their nesting burrows, where their only chick has been waiting all day. The lizards cannot always eat their leftovers because shearwaters regurgitate food as oil and partly digested fish, which the chick will then ingest directly from the parent's beak. But when daylight returns, the insistent, stubborn lizards approach the shearwater's nests, searching for any type of organic matter wherever it comes from. They will even eat tiny remains of fish that they find in the droppings of couriers shearwater and other seabirds. This is the yellow-legged gull. The chicks are just a few hours old when they leave the nest to hide under the stones or in between the vegetation nearby to avoid being surprised by a predator, as the nest is easy to find. In fact, when the chicks are hatched, the nest becomes more of a meeting point than a real nest. When the chicks are still small, lizards can easily steal the scraps they leave. But they need to be careful, because these gulls are also omnivorous, and depending who is at home, the lizards could get eaten themselves. The Orduin's gull also breeds on this island of seabirds and suffers strong competition from the yellow-legged gull, which is much bigger and stronger, and preys especially on their chicks. To defend themselves, Orduin's gulls have developed a strategy that has become quite effective. They build their nests very close to each other, so that when their aggressive neighbors want to enter the colony to capture their chicks, they find themselves surrounded by the entire colony, which defends en masse. This effective strategy turns the colony into an impenetrable space. So not many lizards appear around here during incubation, as there are simply too many sharp beaks around, and they know it's dangerous to enter the colony. However, there is always one lizard brave enough to risk its life before starving to death. When the chicks are hatched, their parents are often out at sea searching for fish to feed them with, so they can't spend so much time keeping an eye out for these small intruders. Although the colony is still well protected, it is less guarded. Chicks pose no danger to the lizards that come looking for food, so now visits from these reptiles become more frequent. These are shags. When they have been fishing for some time, they come ashore to dry their wings, and it's typical to see them on the rocks with their wings exposed to the wind and sun. There are usually a few pairs breeding on the Ilha del Aire. Due to their strong, persistent fishy odor, the bold lizards have also included shags nests in their daily round. Unlike the Orduin's gulls, in this case there are few nests and they are quite separate from each other, so many lizards often come to explore. They check if the adults are in the nest, and if they are, wait until they leave. And then the persistent lizards enter the nest to inspect it. Lizards are often visited by predators such as kestrels, kites, booted eagles, and some other raptors. There is a smaller bird typical of coastal cliffs, which lizards should also beware of. This is the blue rock thrush. Despite feeding their chicks mostly with insects, its 20-centimeter size allows them to hunt larger prey such as lizards, one of its more appreciated items of prey. Curiously, the lizards on the Ilha del Aire seem not to be affected by this type of predation. The lizards' varied diet includes some other species of plants that they have learned to consume after discovering their beneficial properties. Lizards act as direct pollen dispersers for some of them. This one here, called samphire, was the first case of pollination between a reptile and plant discovered in the world. Lizards consume their nectar by sucking it off its flowers, and now, with the pollen grains attached to their tongues, they go from one plant to the other, acting as a direct pollinator of samphire. From this other plant, a species of thistle, lizards know they have to climb the complicated and dangerous road of spikes before reaching the flowers to suck their pollen. So, their movements need to be slow and careful. Take it easy. These sharp spikes hurt. If something makes you lose your balance, don't struggle and try to hold on. It's better just to fall off as often as you need to. But the days go by on the island, and the lizards take advantage, as always, from the food available according to the time of year. Now it's the arum lily which needs the lizards to help them. It's time for the lizards to compensate for the stolen flies. Inside the funnel, which is now closed, a harvest of fruits rich in sugars has begun to develop. As the fruits mature, the funnel dries and finally opens. The time has come to seize a golden opportunity. Lizards now feed almost exclusively on this abundant fruit that provides them with unlimited water and nutrients during the dry season on the island. Now that the arum lily offers plenty of food, conflicts between lizards have decreased compared with when they had to spend hours on the plant to catch a fly. But why wait for the natural process to open the funnels? After all, the restless lizards know exactly what is hidden inside them. They try to pry the funnels open with their feet and head days before the plant does it by itself. And although this could be seen as pillaging, the lizards are probably unaware that the plant also benefits from their action. The lizards are now acting as farmers, dispersing the seeds they defecate away from the original plant. Without this faithful benefactor, which eats the fruit and carries the precious seed in its digestive tract away from the mother plant, the distribution and abundance of this plant on the island would certainly be affected. In this way, by helping the plant proliferate on the island year after year, they also sow their own food for the coming years. The arum lily's future would not be nearly so bright without this restless neighbor. All this happened in part because no other animal life was possible on the island. Other animals might have become competitors of the lizards, or even predators. A mammal could have been one of them. The fact is that a mammal that weighs the same as a lizard needs about 10 times more calories to carry out all their daily activities. In these small islands, there are simply not enough resources to provide these food requirements. And this is how the arum lily and the lizards have survived over millions of years. They were isolated during evolution, adapting in order to survive and to develop the ability to reproduce themselves during the warmer months. The density of both lizards and arum lilies is one of the highest in the world, but it is also one of the most fragile, as the limited space and hostile ecosystem have created a finely balanced system of interactions between the island, the lizards, and the plant. An example of coexistence and interdependence that is quite simply unique on our planet.